Welcome to the Atheist Witch Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. Hello, my wonderfully skeptical and curious listeners. Welcome back to the Atheist Witch Podcast, the bi-weekly show where we explore witchcraft from a non-theistic, science-minded perspective. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into the thinning veil as we rapidly approach Samhain. This is the perfect time for ancestor work. Today we're going to write the blueprint for non-theistic ancestor veneration. We'll delve into the scientific reality of lineage, how to connect with your roots, how to handle difficult family history, and finally, practical evidence-based rituals that you can perform. Samhain is celebrated around October 31st and is often called the Witch's New Year. It's a time of introspection, release, and honoring the cycles of life and death. Traditionally, it's said that this is when the veil between the worlds is at its thinnest. For an atheist witch, we understand this thinning veil as a profound and potent metaphor. It's when our collective and personal memories of those who came before us feels closer and more accessible. It's when our conscious and subconscious minds are naturally more aligned, giving us deeper psychological access to our own roots and our past. For more information on Samhain, tune in next week for the next bonus episode dedicated specifically to the history and tradition of this Sabbath, how I celebrate it, and how you might make Samhain your own this year. Taking a quick moment to discuss my personal practice lately, I think this is a good time to share with you, dear listeners, that I have had serious struggles with ancestor work for most of my life. As a bona fide skeptic, I've wavered between failing to find any value in ancestor veneration to outright resisting this type of practice due to some personal conflicts. Although I do love and appreciate those who have come before me, I recognize that my ancestors were each a product of their times, and in some cases that means that they held some beliefs that I just flat out reject. It's been a journey for me to reconcile that for myself and still find a way to appreciate my own heritage and make it part of my practice. So I'll include some tips in today's episode for any witches who might share similar struggles. On the other hand, I also love to hear stories like my mum bewitching my dad on a spooky evening, and how my gran was considered by some to be part fae herself. So as always, let's take the good with the potentially not so good, and find a way to use our feelings to our advantage. Ancestor veneration springs from a deep human need for meaning, identity, and continuity. For us, we honor our ancestors as the source of our biology, intellectual wisdom, and cultural heritage. We're celebrating a verifiable scientific reality. We are literally made of them. But this isn't just about feeling nostalgic. Science confirms that your ancestors are part of your present. Your inheritance goes far deeper than just eye color or hair type. One fascinating area of exploration on this concept is called epigenetics. It's the study of how environment and behavior affect how your genes function. Studies have shown that trauma experienced by an ancestor, such as a famine or a conflict, can leave a chemical tag on DNA that can be passed down for generations, influencing how your body handles stress today. This is a simplified description of a highly complex topic for the sake of the podcast, but if it interests you, I highly recommend doing additional research on epigenetics. As an atheist witch, I see this concept as the scientific, physical basis for inherited trauma, the literal shadow passed down the line. But critically, it also means that we inherit resilience. The survival of our ancestors, their ability to navigate wars, plagues, and poverty, has left us with a strong, adaptive biological system. When we connect with our ancestors, we are accessing this innate, inherited resilience, the sheer will of life force that overcame everything to create us. That isn't magic. That's hard science. And that is the energy that we are truly tapping into. And beyond biology, our ancestors provide our cultural and intellectual legacy. Every skill, every tradition, every system of belief was passed down generation over generation. When we engage in ancestor work, we are consciously deciding which parts of this legacy we want to activate, carry forward, or ritually heal and discard. The power of ancestor work lies in this conscious choice for yourself as a powerful witch to frame your future using the parts of your past that serve you the best. Predictably, the first step in non-theistic ancestor work is seeking knowledge, and as always, we ground our practice in verifiable reality. To learn more about your own lineage, start simple. Talk to the oldest living relatives. These oral histories are precious, irreplaceable cultural artifacts themselves. Collect names, stories, photographs. Consider using genealogy resources to trace records. You're building a fact-based grimoire of your own existence. Look for heirlooms, letters, or family recipes. A worn-out tool that belonged to a grandparent could be a tangible, scientifically verifiable connection to their physical presence and life energy. Working with this object grounds your practice in reality. And the more you learn, the more the veil truly thins. Not through magic, but through memory, knowledge, and conscious psychological connection. Let's talk about how to reconcile potentially problematic ancestors. This is an essential step for the ethical, modern atheist witch. What if your ancestors had views which, when taken in a modern context, are challenging to understand or even justify? What if someone in your past committed harmful acts or were associated with systems of oppression? Above all, you are not obligated to celebrate all parts of that legacy. You can choose to only honor the positive influences, the strength, the resilience, the survival skills, and the unique ingenuity that they developed. Focus on the fact that they endured to create you. If an ancestor is linked to bigotry or harm, you can reframe your practices recognizing those patterns of behavior that you want to resolve and heal within yourself and within your community. By shedding that generational shadow, you are performing the most profound act of ancestor work possible, healing the past by changing the present. You may be wondering what to do if you don't know your ancestors. If you don't know your biological lineage due to adoption, broken family ties, or lost records, your practice isn't any less potent. You can choose to focus on the chosen lineage that shaped you. Look for ancestors of the mind. These are the pioneers who developed the ideas, science, philosophy, and craft that informs your life. You do draw on their intellectual and spiritual legacy. And what about ancestors of the heart? These are the people, mentors, close friends, or loved ones who nurtured you and contributed fundamentally to your own identity. Their influence is real, tangible, and very worthy of honor. If you don't know your biological roots, your ancestor work is an act of self-determination. You're performing a lifelong spell to curate your own lineage. You're consciously selecting the survival traits, philosophies, and wisdom of your ancestors of the craft to build your strongest self. That's not a consolation prize, that is genuine, powerful, conscious creation. Since we're focused on verifiable results on this podcast, I encourage you to treat these upcoming rituals that I will present like a personal psychological experiment. Let me introduce you to the Skeptic's Test. This is a tool that you can use today and in any future rituals to gauge their impact on you. And as always, take notes. Before you begin your ritual, quickly score your current emotional state, like your anxiety level, whether you're feeling grounded, do you have a sense of purpose? Gauge that on a scale of 1 to 10. Then perform your ritual. Focus deeply on the sensory and reflective experience. And then score your emotional state again, immediately afterward. If the ritual moves the needle on your own self-perception, so if you feel calmer, more connected, or more determined, you have a verifiable proof of its psychological efficacy. The purpose of these rituals is to shift energy from supernatural worship to remembrance, gratitude, and powerful psychological work. This wouldn't be the Atheist Witch podcast without talking about using your senses as a tool. Memory is often triggered by sensory input, and you can use your senses to intentionally connect with your lineage. As you go through these rituals, keep this in mind. Use scent. Use a fragrance that an ancestor wore, or the smell of their favorite food, to instantly trigger deep memory centers in your brain. Use sound. Listen to music that they loved, or play their voice if you have a recording. Use taste. Cook a family recipe. The taste and smell of that specific food is an immediate and verifiable connection to their lived experience. Here's a simple 5-step ritual that focuses on rooting yourself in your past while setting intentions for your future. You may wish to perform this on Samhain, but this is a ritual you can use anytime to connect deeply with your ancestry. First, ground and center yourself using your preferred method. Check out episode 10 on divination for a step-by-step walkthrough of my usual grounding and centering practice. Today, in your grounding, you may wish to visualize or feel the resilience of your lineage supporting you. Create a deliberate space for your work here. If you have artifacts or heirlooms that you can place on your altar or working space, do so. Set a candle, charge it, and state out loud, "I light this fire to acknowledge the life force that flowed through my ancestors and flows now through me." Next, you want to dig deep for gratitude. Hold an artifact like a photo or an heirloom, or if you don't have any physical objects, try just a small bowl of water. Spend some time listing aloud or even writing down the strengths, skills, or opportunities that you have because of your ancestors. Next, acknowledge and release your shadows. Write down one generational pattern or shadow that you wish to heal. Fold that paper and light it. Please always ensure that you're practicing fire safety. State, "I honor the endurance that brought this pattern to me, but I choose to stop the flow here. I release this shadow with grace." By doing this, you aren't just letting go. You're clearing the soil for the seeds of introspection and wisdom that you're going to want to plant for the long, dark winter ahead. Your ancestor work is wonderful preparation for the coming cycle. And when you feel that it's time to close the ritual, extinguish the candle. If you're not able to burn paper where you're performing this ritual, you can also bury it in the earth later, physically releasing that intention. Another idea is the traditional dumb supper, which is a silent meal, and it can be beautifully adopted for an atheist practice. Typically performed at Samhain, you would prepare an extra plate at your table. It's set beautifully, but the chair remains empty. This place is symbolically reserved for the presence of memory. Or if you want to take this opportunity to remember a specific person, you could also set that space specifically for them. For the meal, you'll want to serve seasonal foods, and before eating, take a moment to look at that empty plate. Visualize those individuals or the collective force of your lineage that provided the biological and cultural foundations for these foods and the skills to prepare it. Some witches like to serve a dumb supper backwards, starting with dessert. That's up to you. Eat your meal in silence. Focus on the sensory experience of the food and the quiet reflection of memory. That silence will block out external distractions and allow your internal subconscious to communicate deep-seated knowledge through the veil. You could also try journaling and divination for wisdom. You could use this time for powerful internal work, like a journaling prompt. What is the most powerful gift or skill I know I've inherited? How can I intentionally use it during the dark season? In divination, you could use a tarot or oracle spread dedicated to gaining wisdom about your path forward by introspecting about your past and the past of your ancestors. This can allow your subconscious mind, through the thin veil, to communicate deep-seated knowledge to your conscious mind. The magic of this work is not in calling back spirits, but in leveraging our incredible human capacity for memory, emotional processing, and growth. You're honoring a verifiable truth about your past, and by doing so, you're empowering your future. That's all for today's detailed dive into ancestor work. As you prepare for this period of deep reflection, I wish you all an insightful, abundant, and reflective Samhain. I'll be releasing the Samhain episode in just 1 week. Following that, the next full episode of the Atheist Witch podcast will delve into journaling and record keeping. Thank you for listening. As always, you can find me on Instagram at @anatheistwitch or send your comments to anatheistwitch@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify, please take a moment to check out the poll attached to this episode where I'm looking for your ideas for Season 2 of the Atheist Witch podcast. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, keep making your own magic.